Monkey King is such a prevalent figure in Asian culture, and you're getting to introduce this character to an American audience. What has it meant for you to bridge that gap between cultures, and did that bring any added sense of responsibility?
Yeah, it's quite daunting to do that, especially since this version of the Monkey King is really interesting because we're showing like audiences that know and are really familiar with the story a new version of the Monkey King because he's like a father and he's like got responsibilities and he's got the
Yeah.
world, resting on his shoulders, and he's very different than the Monkey King we know from the Journey to the West story. But then we also get the added bonus of having the flashback scene in episode 4 where you get to see what he was like as a
Yeah.
youngster and that actually he was not too far off from what his son is like. So whatever he's chastising his son about, you go back to the flashback and you're like, wait a second, he was that way too. And you get to really see this father-son dynamic and this whole idea of like, how do you raise your kid, right? Do you let them grow on their own and make their own mistakes, or do you like coddle them too much to the fat point where they can't even like,
Mm.
survive in the outside world because they've been, protected so much. And so I think, the Monkey King is in this story is really interesting because he's dealing with like a very real situation, even though he's
Yeah.
a god.
Throughout your career, you've had opportunities to play the Monkey King, but you've always
Yeah.
turned them down. What made this iteration so special for you, and how were you able to bring your own life experiences to this character?
Yeah, I think I turned it down because every version that's made is a version of the Journey to the West story. So it's
Mhm.
like, how many times do we need to see that? How many times do we need to see a different actor play that character? And so I always turned it down because I never thought I could bring anything new to the table. And I think it's just like great timing that they reach out to me to play this character as I'm a father, because
Mm.
I also, I related so much to this new version of the Monkey King because I'm a father who's trying to raise a kid, in this very, very similar situation. And, there's definitely times where I'm, not approving of how she's doing certain things. And I want
Mm.
to like guide her in a different way, but at the same time, kind of have to let go and let her find her own path herself, you know? And so, and then also dealing with then my parents' generation, like how they treated me, and like dealing with that also and having flashbacks of that, and like how kind of Monkey King is a conglomeration of like those experiences of me growing up, but also of me being a father and raising a child as well.
Definitely. And while the Monkey King is this fantastical character, you're also able to keep him so grounded. Was that something that you were mindful of during your character development process? How were you able to toe that line?
Yeah, I thought it was really important to do that because this story really jumps across all kinds of tones and genres, right?
Hmm.
And you have to have a kind of a good overall tone and a grounding of all the characters so that they all kind of fit in one line as opposed to being like all over the place, right? And so the way to do that was trying to find something very human about this monkey that was relatable and that could, related to the overall arc of the main story. And what, stood out to me was the kind of mother father son dynamic in Guan Yin, Monkey King, and Wei Chen, and then also the father and mother that Chin Han and Yo Yan Yan and Ben Wang play, and kind of bringing the heaven and the earth characters together on the same level and kind of connecting them in that way. That was like what I felt was the way to kind of ground it and make it all work.
Mm, beautifully said. It comes across on screen as well. I know that this is such a special project for a community that wants to see themselves represented as heroes on screen and not as a sidekick or the punchline. I've been lucky enough to be in attendance during the South by Southwest and the New
Oh,
York
cool. That
premiere
was a really
and seen
special screening.
firsthand, yeah,
Yeah.
the impact that this show has had on audiences. What has this moment meant to you?
Yeah, it's when you're making it, you don't really think about that because you're
Mm,
worried about trying to get everything right. And then when you go to a screening like that, and remember that guy that asked that question and started tearing up, right?
yeah.
Because that of how much that story meant to him and how it was important to him growing up. You realize like the gravity of the situation
Mm,
and that it is so important to tell these stories. It is so important for representation because um, through these stories, people can watch it all over the country or all over the world and not feel so alone anymore. When I grew up in the 70s and 80s, we didn't have like the internet to be able to, bring a common ground to everything. And so I was stuck with the 12 channels on my TV at home, and on
mm,
those 12 channels, I didn't see people like me on that TV. And so then there's a sense it's like oh, am I American? Do I feel American? And then you deal with like all the microaggressions and all that crap of like, "Oh, where are you from? Where are you really from? Why is your English so good? You know?
Mm,
Or wow, your English is really great." I'm like, I was born here, MFR, you know, like all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
It's like dealing with that growing up and then having a project like this then makes it like all make sense because I have a daughter, right? And for her to be able to see this on screen and think it's totally normal is so different than how I grew up, but it's freaking
yeah,
awesome to watch, right? To see her watch Michelle Yeoh take home the Oscar in the same year that this comes out, all happening in 1 year, it's like totally normal for her, and that's how it should be, you know.
mm,
So it's great. I'm totally moved by it all, and the gravity of it is like really kind of cool.